Hello and welcome back everyone to Master Game Design, Unreal Engine 5 Stylized Material and third-person blueprint course. In the last lesson we left ourselves off with a nice setup for the scene, and now we're going to continue on and actually make sure that we transition this to a more of a nicer look for the level. So first of all, we can see that the terrain itself does not have the texture yet. So let's go ahead and fix that right away. For starters, I'm just going to reset the filter so it wouldn't get in our way. I'm going to go back onto the content within the content browser. And now let's go ahead and actually make use out of the Quixel functionality. So within the top left-hand corner, we're going to click this button over here and grab ourselves something called Quixel Bridge. So let's just make sure that we open this up. And it'll basically, let's make sure that we allow the functionality within the Windows setup. Anyways, we basically get this window which will allow us to grab any type of a material that we want for our setup. We also need to make sure that we have ourselves logged in before we make use out of it. So all of these materials, all of the assets within the Quixel are free to use for Unreal Engine. So we can make use out of that. Let's go ahead and just sign in with our Unreal Engine profile, basically, which you use whichever way you signed yourself up to. There you go. And now we're just going to go ahead and search for dry sand, like so. And the material that we're going to be using is this one over here. Just make sure to have it download it and add it onto your project. We're just going to use medium quality. That's going to be quite all right for us. Let's just go ahead and do that. And after you add it, you should, or to make this smaller, have it within your content browser, within a Megascans folder. It creates a new folder basically for us to use. Anyways, since we're here, we might as well grab ourselves the other material, since for landscape you usually would need to blend in materials to get yourself a nicer type of a look. Or if you, for example, if we want to have a city type of a design, we don't want this entire section to just look like a sandy setup. So for that, we're going to make sure we grab ourselves a nice stone. If we type in stone, we should grab ourselves that kind of a section. We have ourselves categories as well. Let's go into the surfaces. And within here, quite a lot of that. So I'm just going to type in, instead of just grabbing that, I'm going to search for wall as well, stone wall. The reason I'm searching for this instead of just stone pavement is mainly because it has some nice type of bricks that I quite like. So actually, there you go. This is the one that I'm looking for. It's going to be called stone wall. And yeah, as you can see, it has like a nice broken pattern, which I quite like. I'm going to go ahead and just simply add it, download it and adding it to the project like so. Just make sure to click on this button over here in the bottom right hand corner, and then it adds it onto your setup. So after that, just go ahead and close it down, and you should have yourselves basically two type of materials. You can check with the naming itself. There is a sort of an ID right with the naming itself. So just make sure you have the same ones. And then afterwards, what I like to do usually is I like to go onto the material itself. It has a nice material instance preset. If we were to just drag and drop it onto our landscape, which if we were to add it, make sure that we have it unlocked within a persistent level, we're going to just simply drag and drop it, and it should, or it's not going to do it like that. Actually, we'll need to go and drag ourselves down onto the landscape material. We're just going to drag and drop this landscape like so. We're going to create our own material in a second though, but for now we're just going to make use out of this functionality in order to basically adjust the color scheme of this entire material. So right now you can see it looks like that, but if we click one and look from a distance, it might look quite nice, but I personally want a bit more of a nicer contrast for the sand, for a more of a stylized touch within this section. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Actually, I'm going to just get my camera so to have a bit of a nice close-up perspective and a bit of a further perspective as well. Going to go double click into the material instance, and as you can see over here, we have a bunch of options. We're not going to go too much into detail in regards to that, as we are simply going to make some basic adjustments. So within this option, there is something called albedo itself. We're going to go ahead and enable them like so and open up the arrows like this, and you can see that albedo tint is just going to have a simple overlay, whereas the albedo controls will have saturation, brightness and contrast. And actually, sorry, for this particular case, I will just turn off the albedo tint and I'll only use albedo control since that's the only one that we need, to be honest. So yeah, for starters, we're going to just play around with the brightness. I'm going to just put it off to the side like so we can see what we're doing. And I'm just going to make the windows, as you can see, we can just move the windows around when we have this sort of a cursor, and we can just drag it out to the side and reposition our windows in whichever way we want, basically. So yeah, let's go ahead and play around with the saturation first. By increasing the saturation, we can basically, increase the saturation, make it look a little bit more colorful. And I think I'll go ahead and do that for starters. So the value I'm going to use is going to be just a little bit better, like so. Something like this. So 1.07, I think that was a good value to make use out of. Yeah, that looks quite nice. Then the brightness is going to just increase how bright the sand is overall. And no, I don't actually like the overall setting. Let me just go ahead and play around a little bit. So yeah, there you go. It's very nice with the material instance to just play around with all the values, and it will give you straight up a nice type of a setup. So yeah, the variation for this, I'll just set it as 1.3 actually, and then the brightness, I'll go ahead and increase this to 1.45. There you go. And this is giving us a very nice type of a look. And yeah, just looking at it from a distance, you can see that it fits in, blends in so much nicer, especially when we have this sort of a clay look on the sandstone type of a look on the materials themselves within the assets. It just blends in so much nicer overall. I think we can go ahead and leave it as is. The next one is going to be the stone wall. I'll just go ahead and drop it into landscape material. So again, I have the landscape selected, and I'm just making sure I apply it onto it. So now we're going to play around with this a little bit. So going to go ahead and increase the albedo controls and maybe play around with the brightness first, making it quite bright, quite bleached out in regards to the color. Setting it up to 2.2 is going to give us this sort of result. The saturation can be taken up as well, quite a bit actually. Or I'll just go ahead and put it as 0.07. There you go. Like that look. The RGB curve is basically going to be the contrast. We're going to work on that actually later down the line when adjusting the material. So we're just going to increase this to a little bit. As you can see, it basically gives us a proper nice of sharpened texture. So there is that. And I will increase it to a value of 1.13, just like that. Give us this sort of a look. And it doesn't quite blend in with this material over here, which I think is quite okay for this particular case, as we get ourselves a nicer type of a transition from one material to another. And yeah, once we're done with that, we got ourselves a couple of material informations. Now we're actually going to make use out of them in order to change the material itself. So what I mean by that is we can go on to the texture settings over here. And if we were to open it up fully, we have all the parameters over on the right hand side. We're going to be changing them essentially to create ourselves a material for the landscape, and the easiest way for us to do that if we were to just directly change it within these controls over here. So once we start changing it, you'll notice that these materials will end up becoming overly exposed, and the reason being is that because we're essentially multiplying this parameters over. So I'm going to go back onto material instance real quick. You can see it opens up a new tab on a top. So the first one is the texture, the second one is material instance, and I'm just going to copy saturation over here, and then we have adjustments tab on the right hand side within its details, and saturation is going to be over here. So I'm just going to click Control V to paste it. So Control C to copy, Control V to paste it. So just like that, I'm just going to do it for all of these values like so, and you can see that the material over here is going a little bit weird, a little bit bizarre. So contrast is going to be set as RGB curve. If we were to just change it like so, it'll give us the exact same result. And we're done with that. We can actually just go ahead and reset it, and this should, well, I'm going to just take this off like this, and you can see even if we're not using the settings right now, because we basically placed it in the texture itself, this information is going to be kept the same as we had. We're going to do the same thing for the dry sand as well. Let's go ahead and open the texture and the material instance for it. I'm going to actually maximize this window real quick since I'm not worried what's behind it at the moment. Going to copy saturation, paste this in saturation value over here for the sand. Going to get the brightness, and I think that's the only one that I changed for this. Let's change it over here. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and now tick this box off, and we're going to get ourselves a nice type of a result. Just in case, I'm going to check it real quick how it looks like with this result, and there you go, we get the identical type of a look. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the setup of these materials, of these textures. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in a